Hello there everybody and welcome to a brand new run of Andy Shed Live. This is Series 13, episode number 1 for Sunday the 30th of July 2023. Hello there everybody, how are you? Welcome back. It's been a while, but we are back, mad, bad and dangerous to know as ever, and back for, well, at least the next few weeks anyway, I hope. To get back into the old swing of things after we've been off for so long. Nice to see so many people in the chat down there, and that, including Arthur joining us live. Apparently, hello Arthur. I know he normally either doesn't watch it live or watches it back after the event, or he watches it on a device where he can't actually talk to us live on the stream. So nice to see you've managed to join us live, Arthur. Right, yeah. So what's been going on with everybody while I've been away? What's been going on here? Answer: not a lot really. I've been trying to just catch up with things. You know, I've not really done anything special. I've just been catching up with stuff that I should have been doing before, basically. The hay fever's gone away over the last few weeks. It's left me with a cough though, as it always does. I have hay fever for about a month, and I have a cough for about 3 months after it. So yeah, we've got that to deal with tonight. So my apologies in advance for that. But other than that, yeah, not a massive amount has been happening. Just before the last series finished, we had a big sort of crazy thing of phones coming in. We had kind of 2 or 3 lots of where I went places and came back with about 20 phones at a time. So quite a lot of stuff arrived. And much of it is still waiting to be looked at. There are bits and pieces of it here, but quite a lot of it is still waiting to be looked at. A couple of new stationary engines have arrived as well. Well, new to me, and of course this year the rally season has really got back into gear again. So we've been out and about doing all of that. Let's have a look what you guys have been up to in the chat. I'm just seeing in the chat here Peter saying, okay, I wonder if Andy remembered. What am I supposed to be remembering? Because whatever it is, I haven't. Christopher says he got a nice new red telephone, a GPO 706L. You actually got it then did you, Christopher? He sent me some pictures from eBay of it. But I didn't know you'd actually got it. And he's got a rare Australian Dial 21 with the numbers in a slightly different order, I think. Dominic says, I tried to get a Marantz CP430 portable tape player working. Not had much luck so far. Dead battery compartment and dead VU meters, as well as failed capacitors. Good luck, Dominic. I have got a Marantz tape recorder, a fairly professional one that, well, as professional as any cassette recorder gets, because nobody doing anything professionally really got any business recording anything onto compact cassettes, because they're just not good enough really for broadcast quality. But I got a Marantz portable tape player that apparently had been used by a reporter at a radio station somewhere, and I was given it not working, and it's an absolute nightmare. I don't know if it's that model. I don't know if it's a CP430, but it's just absolutely packed with stuff. If you take a cover off or anything, you don't look inside it, you just take a cover off, and right behind the cover there's a circuit board and another circuit board under that and another circuit board. It's just absolutely rammed solid with stuff. So good luck taking one of those apart. I've sort of looked inside it on a couple of occasions and thought, yeah, and put it back together again quickly and left it. so consequently it still doesn't work. But yeah, nightmarish machines. Dominic says he's got another one that he found cheap, which hopefully between the two he'll be able to get a working example. As I say, good luck. Peter says, should we give Andy a call? Well, I'm here. I've arrived. Did you think I'd forgotten about it? Was that it? Did you think I'd put the thing on YouTube to advertise it and then forgot to actually do it? No, I was just late as normally. I'm always late for everything. If ever I turn up early for something, then shoot me because it's an imposter. Christopher says is Red 706 is from 1961, which makes it a very early one actually. That's a very early one. That must, well, let me correct that. That should be a Diacon case for absolute certain. But if it's gone through the post, particularly if it's gone to Australia and then gone through the post, I can't imagine it's got the original case on it, because in 1961 that should definitely be Diacon. Fat Hobbit says, summer's been busy for you, Andy. Yes, it has, and it's not over yet. You want to see my diary for tomorrow? There are things that I should do tomorrow morning that I've actually got to do tonight because I've not got time to do them in the morning. Dominic says he thinks he's going to use a broken tape player for parts. It comes with a leather case and a shoulder strap, which is quite handy. Michael's around. Hi, Michael. It says, glad you're back. Yes, it's nice to be back. Now, my phone is ringing, but I don't think it's you guys. Just bear with me a minute, and we'll see who it is. Hello. Oh, wait up. Oh, blimey, what have I done there? Ooh. No, it wasn't any of you guys, it was a false alarm. So, yeah, it was a totally false alarm, that one. Yeah, thought it wasn't, because it didn't come through on a CNET phone. By the way, for those of you who have got a CNET connection through me, it was down for a couple of weeks or so. It should now be back up and running again. And I know Michael T's got one and Christopher's got one. One or two others have got them. So, if you found your CNET connection has not been working recently, it was a server fault here. It's now fixed, and they should be up and running again for you to ring whoever you want on CNET. I noticed in the chat very early on when the YouTube stream first started up, when I'm theoretically not here, but I do glance at the chat occasionally. I noticed you're talking about pulse-to-tone converters, and Dominic saying that his new BT line doesn't support pulse dialing. When they come to do it to me, I'm going to challenge it and say that whatever equipment they give me has to be backwards compatible. So watch this space. Regarding pulse-to-tone converters, watch this space as well, because I have found a design for an open source one, totally free. You build it yourself, and I think it's probably about £4 or £5 worth of components that go in it, and it's a guy in the UK who's built it, so it works on the UK network. So I'm going to order the bits, and I'm going to have a go at building one. So don't go paying 40 or 50 quid for a rotatone that's got about £4 or £5 worth of parts inside it, because it's an absolute rip-off. It really is. So yeah, what I'm planning to do is I will publish it all on the website, on the Andy Shed website when I get a minute, which is here. That's the web address, andyshed.copress.net. That is the one. So yeah, that will be along in a week or maybe a couple of weeks or so. I just want to get these components and have a go at building one. The main thing that I've got to do is get some circuit boards printed for that. But there's plenty of companies that will print circuit boards for you these days. So we will have a go at that. So yeah, watch this space for pulse-to-tone converters, because we might be making a own. Yeah. Right, I'm just reading the chat and what people are saying. Dominic says, yeah, BT have switched Dominic's landline over to VoIP, and it doesn't work with Loop Disconnect anymore. Yeah, so what hardware have they given you, Dominic? If you've now had this digital switchover done to you, Dominic, I have questions. First question is, what socket is on your wall? Is it still an ordinary phone socket? And the second question is, what actually plugs into that socket now that would go between a modern phone and that socket? Is it a router that's also got like a telephone socket on it? So is it a black box router thing that's also got a telephone socket on that you just plug your normal telephone into and then it makes it VoIP? What is the actual hardware? Because if it doesn't support pulse dialing, it's the fault of whatever box it is they've given you, and they should have given you a box that does, because as far as I'm aware, BT still have to be backwards compatible if the subscriber wants backwards compatibility. And I understand that they have been asking people about stuff like that and giving them different equipment if they give an awkward answer. They're saying to people, have you got access to a cell phone, to a mobile phone? And if you say no, they have to supply you some kind of battery backup system for if your power goes out. So I would say, when they say, have you got access to a cell phone, say no and see what they give you. Gambo says, hey peeps, still got my shed to put up, Got the slabs laid at last for it, but every day I want to work on the shed, it's bucketing down. Yeah, tell me about it, Gambo. Every time I go outside here, I seem to get wet. Then I come inside and the sun comes out. I'm like one of them little things, with the man and the woman on. Those little weather forecasting things where the woman comes out when it's sunny and the bloke comes out when it's raining. It's like that. Every time I go out the door, it starts to rain. Yeah. Gambo says, although I said I'm not buying any more phones, I've just received 6 more. With more to arrive. Oops. Keith says he's going to ask for backwards compatibility from BT. Yes, go for it, Keith. What you want to say to though is you've got a phone that's worked for the last 120 years, and what idiot has now broken it? Has now say I've got a phone that's worked for the last 120 years, and show them a candlestick, and say, right, okay, this has worked for the last 120 years. You've now put a new system in that after 120 years has stopped my phone working. And don't tell me it's my phone that's broken, because it's been fine for the last century and a bit. And see what they say to that. And if they say, oh well, it's modern technology, and say to them then, well, tell you what, mobile internet is modern technology. Take your VoIP phone line and all your equipment and stick it where the sun don't shine. And then see what they do. Because if people don't have the broadband or anything from them, and you can get perfectly good broadband now on a 4G SIM card that you can just take with you, when you go on holiday and that, take your broadband with you. If people get rid of their line, whatever it may be, fibre or whatever, I think they might soon have a rethink, don't you? Christopher says, Andy, have you seen a Dial 21 with a dial plate with black with white numbers on it? Not in this country, but it was done in Australia. So you've probably seen a lot of them, Christopher. They were a direct replacement for a Dial 12. Didn't you send me one from Australia, Christopher? Didn't you send me a Dial 21 plate that was black with either white or silver numbers on it? You sure you sent me one? I fitted it to an Australian 400 series phone to make it look a bit more correct, because it's got a Dial 21 in when it should have a Dial 12 in it, but I can't get the Dial 21 out because some plonk has glued it in, and they've used very strong glue, stronger than super glue. Wesley says, regarding the VoIP service, he says, the VoIP is provided by the Smart Hub, and you cannot use a third-party ATA with BT. Well, does your Smart Hub not got an Ethernet connection on it? I'm not understanding that at all, Wesley, because if your Smart Hub's got an Ethernet connection on it, surely you can plug an ATA into that Ethernet port on your Smart Hub. Or are BT Smart Hubs, can you now only connect to them by Wi-Fi? Do they not have an Ethernet port on? Gambo says, I had an argument with BT and said if I lose my landline then they can keep their broadband, so I'm only with them until the landline disappears. Good for you, Gambo. if enough people did that, I think they might change their mind about all this digital nonsense. Because they're only doing it basically to save themselves money so they can make even bigger profits than they already do, and because they're damn right lazy. Wesley says you can use an ATA on a BT Smart Hub, but BT won't just give you their SIP registration details. Yeah, well, you don't have your ATA with BT, do you? You might have a BT line that has got this Smart Hub thing on the end of it, but then you have a separate ATA that you register to whatever VoIP provider you want. And I put it to you that if you've got to have a VoIP provider, BT is probably the last one you ought to choose, because there are plenty of others like Vonage and people like that, aren't there? I mean, CNET is a VoIP service, but the problem with CNET is there's no way to dial out of CNET to another network. That is the downside of CNET. Now there are ways you could make a gateway to do that, but in general CNET people don't. They keep it as a closed loop CNET in general, but there are ways that you could do it by backfeeding a PBX, but that's more technical than really want to go into here at the minute. Wesley says that's exactly what I said earlier. Port your number to SIPGate or whoever. Yeah, exactly, Wesley. But if you're going to port your number or something to SIPGate, why bother with the BT line? You might as well have a portable router thing that's got a SIM card in it, so that when you go on holiday, or for instance, you take it with you and you've still got your phone line when you go on holiday. You've still got your normal phone number. You know, if you've got a camper van or something like that, because lots of people have got campers these days, haven't they? You know, you put it in your camper van, connect it up to its low voltage supply, and you can have a proper telephone connected to an ATA, connected to your mobile internet box, and you can have it in your camper van or in your caravan or whatever. Wesley says it'd be a bad show if you relied on CNET and the server was down for a few weeks. If anybody was relying on CNET, the server wouldn't be down for a few weeks, because there'd be people to fix it, wouldn't there? You know, if it was a paid service, which it's not, if it was a paid service, it would get fixed a lot quicker, because it'd be much higher priority, because you'd have an engineer paid there all the time to fix it, wouldn't you? You would hope, anyway. Christopher said, no, it was a dial 12 I sent you. Yeah, you sent me a dial 12, Christopher, but I think you sent me also a dial 21 plate, because I think I put it in the phone. I'll dig the phone out for next week, and we'll have a look at it. It says a man went to hospital, was told he had a broken leg in 2 places. Doctor said, so what are you going to do to avoid this happening again? Man replied, I won't go to those 2 places. Oh, oh, God help us, it's only episode 1 as well. Chris says a dial 21 with a dial plate with black with white are for the PMG 400. Yes, but I'm sure you sent me a dial plate that was black with white numbers on for a dial 21. I said dial 21 with dial plate with black with white are for the PMG 400. Yes, I'm assuming what happened in Australia, Christopher, is exactly the same as what happened here with the Bakelite 300 series phones here, whereby they were originally issued with dial 12s, but when dial 21 came along, they made a version of it that was a direct replacement for the dial 12s in the Bakelite phones. So in the case of the UK, they made a dial 21 with an alphanumeric finger plate and a black finger wheel on it, so it kind of looked the part in keeping with the Bakelite phones. Right, I'm just going to let you read some of these, cause, Farticus 1672, aka Arthur, says there's a guy on eBay that overcomes a switch. He still uses his Pulse phones. I do. It says it bothers me, Wesley, because I want to use my vintage telephones, hence why I'm here taking part in this YouTube channel. Yeah, well, I still use them. This one on my desk here, that you can't actually see at the minute, but you still can't see it really, can you? Hang on, there. That this still dials out. This is still on the GPO network, and the switchover hasn't happened here yet. But when it does, it'll just go through the PBX. So going through the PBX, it will do pulse to tone, but it's not happened here yet. And so I can pick it up. Oh, you can't see it still because I've not put it on the right. There you go. There it is. So I can, like I say, I can pick this up on the GPO network at the minute, and I can dial my my mobile on it. And it'll ring it, I'm sure. Hang on, I fudged the dial. Let's try that again, shall we? I forgot to dial the 9 to start with. Shall we see if that's worked? There you go. Can you hear that ringing? I'm sure you can. Yeah. Right. There you go. And I hang that up, it'll stop. There. And that's still on the GPO network as it stands at the minute. Arthur says, no, Andy, the guy on YouTube had his phone line switched to fibre, so he rewired his box on the wall to make his pulse dialing phones work. he added a box beside it. Right. Interesting. I wonder what he did. Find out who it is, Arthur, and I'll have to watch his video and find out what happened there, because I don't know. I've not seen this video, so I'd be quite interested to know what it's all about. That, because yeah, we are going to have to do something eventually. Obviously, we're not going to get away with it forever. They are going to try and foist VoIP upon us. But I won't be going down here with a fight. Here I have to tell a story of my time at the Tramway Museum at Cryche, and the guy who used to look after the telephones there, a fella called John Markham, when they had a telephone exchange on site at Cryche and Old Strowger. And when a BT engineer had to come to Cryche, he used to come into the office, which was in an old cottage called Poplar House. And they used to see all the phones and all the incoming lines that went into all this vintage switchboard equipment and that. And the people from like BT or OpenReach or whatever would go absolutely ashen. They'd just stand there and you could see the colour drain out of their face, because they'd had their one. They're not really engineers, you know. These people these days, they have like a couple of days slideshow course, and then they call them engineers. So when they're faced with something that is not exactly the same as all the other 50 calls they've gone to that day, when they're first faced with something a little bit different, they completely come unstuck. And often when they were coming, John Markham would know they were coming and he'd be there. When they came, and he'd say, "Greetings!" and shake their hand, and "What can I do for you?" And then he'd start speaking all this very, very complex technical language. And you could see them just sort of glazing over, these so-called engineers. It was really, 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 really funny, and it happened on multiple occasions. But it was brilliant. It really was brilliant. Peter Blackburn says YouTuber DF9999999 as a video. What? Is that really the YouTuber, or has this done some kind of weird censoring thing of that? Because is that right? I'm going to just see if I can have a look at that. Oh, the thing about the Vera board. Yes. Yeah, you're talking about somebody making a DTMF converter there, not somebody getting around the thing by putting the box on the wall like Arthur was getting on about. Yeah, well, you can make a DTMF converter to put in your telephone. Right, I'm just going to look for something. Bookmarks recently, so right, just bear with me 1 second and I'll see if I can get this on screen for you. Right. I think I can. Let's have a go at this. Right. So here's a page from the web. Build your own pulse to tone converter, and Matt's Tech Pages, and the website it's on is www.mattmillman, so mattmillman.com. So it's www.mattmillman.com /projects / build your own pulse to tone converter. And he's done it, apparently. And it says, a few months ago I had purchased a Rotatone module for one of my telephones. It's a great product, but in the event that you find something you don't like about its functionality, there's not a lot you can do about it, because it's not an open source product. Also, if on a very tight budget, you could save yourself a bit of money building your own. And that picture shows the Rotatone module, which is the red thing installed into a GPO 746. But it says you can build your own. So here it is. Now, so there's a few projects kicking around on the internet which make for quite a good starting point. One of the earliest efforts was undertaken by Boris Cherkassky and subsequently improved upon by Arnie Weber on the Bitbucket repository. Arnie included some gerbers with this, which I fired off to C Studio PCB, which is a PCB printing company, a bit like PCBWay and all that lot, and made some of my own, forming the basis of the project. I have to say, it's quite a luxury to be building someone else's designs for once. So here is Arnie's rendition of the Rotatone. So there's the schematic for it. Now these are all based on an application note AVR 314 from Atmel, which includes some tricky code that generates DTMF tones. And then that's his build of it, or at least his first build of it, I think. But then he changed the design somewhat, because he says, when he built the original design, I found that while it did work, there were a couple of problems with it. And the main problem it had was that speech on it was very quiet, and it also didn't work on BT's lines. And he later found out that the reason it didn't work on BT's lines was because the tones it was generating were also too quiet to be heard. So he made a few alterations to it, and it's for that reason he doesn't recommend building the original design. So here, this now is his altered schematic of what he actually did build. It says the main change to design is the power supply. By replacing the xenon resistor arrangement with a 78L05, the AC load is virtually nothing, meaning speech volume is now at the same level as it was before installing it. So that's what is actually built, and there it is, installed in the 746. As you can see, it's got 4 connections to it, well, 5 connections. There's four terminals, but it looks like there's actually 5 connections because there's 2 on the blue one that are going to it. And there it is in a 300 series. Says I made quite a few alterations from the original implementation, adding redial functionality as well as simplifying the programming of speed dials. As previously mentioned in my implementation, the AVR is in power down mode during all idle times, essential when building my version of the hardware. You can get my code here on GitHub. Alternatively, the code on Arnie's repository will work, provided that the internal pull-ups are enabled on PB1 and PB2. Functionality differs significantly. And you can... So what I understand you have to do, now this is not an area that I know much about really. The black silicon chip thing on that, in that picture, is a microcontroller, and you have to program it. Now, as I understand it, you get a little thing that goes into a USB socket, USB port, that chip plugs into, and as I understand it, that's how you program it. So you get like a little circuit board that's got a USB port on the end of it, and that chip plugs into that little circuit board for programming. Then you take it out and stick it in this when you when you've built it, and it's as simple as that. But there is a code you have to download to program it. So it sounds a little bit complex, but it sounds like it's all done for you. The PCBs were made for $4 by PCB service. Default options on the service are okay for the board. And there's a couple of phones wired up. And there's the shopping list of the parts that you want. It says programming the AVR. There are quite a few ways to do the programming. Let you do your own research. Your programmer will need the hex file from here and correctly set fuse bytes there. It says for normal in dialing, just pull the dial round from the desired number to the finger stop and release immediately. Dialing at a start and a hash. Pull the dial from 1 and hold on the finger stop for 2 seconds until you hear a beep. Release and a tone for star will be generated. For hash, do the same but use 2. Redial, pull the dial around from 3 and hold on the finger stop for 2 seconds. Release when you hear the beep and the last number will be redialed. There are 7 speed dial locations, 0, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. Pull the dial around to the finger stop and hold for 2 seconds. Release when you hear the beep and the desired number will be dialed. So this is all possible. So anyway, I'm going to have a go at building one of these, and if we can build one, then we can probably build lots. So hang fire on buying your very expensive things, because this looks like it will not be difficult to put together. It's all new to me, this programming a microcontroller thing. This is not something that I've particularly ever done before, though. So yeah, you'd have to basically bear with me a bit on it, but it's something that I'm going to look into. I only found this project about 10 minutes before I came on air tonight, so I've had a very quick cursory glance at this guy's website, but yeah, it looks interesting, doesn't it? It does look interesting, that does. Yeah, it does. I think we might be able to do something with that. We'll have to have a little look and see how it works out. Right, what are people up to in the old chat on here? Right, I'm just reading the chat again. Sorry, I forget to talk and read at the same time. It's actually really difficult to do. Chris says I sent a photo to show the dial 21 in email. Right, I'll have to have a look for it, Christopher, and that. I'll have a look for it and we'll come back to it next week. That. Whereas it says the channel. It's called My Mate Vince. Right, that's the YouTube channel, is it? But Arthur says no, it's not him. That doesn't ring a bell. Wesley says you don't need to convert each telephone though. Dominic says the question is, can it easily be converted to an inline version? It looks like you might be able to with a little modification. Well, he says I don't think it can, Dominic. It relies on the dial contacts essentially being volt free, which they wouldn't be on an inline version. Yeah, very true. Well, maybe what we'll have to do is get hold of one of these inline version ones and take it apart and see what's inside it. That might be the thing to do. Yeah, we'll investigate this further. This pulse to tone thing. We will investigate it further and see what we can achieve. But yeah, it might be worth us trying some things, Dominic. I think you said something about getting one of these Linksys ATAs, Dominic, earlier in the chat. That won't help with pulse to tone conversion because the Linksys ATAs do not recognise pulse dialing. The ones that I've got on the windowsill here that CNET comes in on, you know, when Christopher, somebody rings me on a CNET phone and I go to the windowsill and answer it, although they are 700 series telephones, they're the push button ones that do pulse dialing. I just forget what model it is. It's a 7.8 something, isn't it? Oh, that's a GEC one actually. That's not a GPO one at all. That's a GPO one. Yeah, it's 782 is the one, and that does DTMF dialing. So there what I've got CNET connected to at the minute, but if I'm going through my normal phone line, which is the black phone on the desk here, goes through the goes through the PBX, and theoretically on the other side of the PBX I can put one of those Linksys ATAs, and that would work in theory. Alright, or you can just get a Grandstream ATA, and they do recognise pulse dialing. At least most of them do. So yeah, you have to do a bit of Google research to find out which ATAs people are using with pulse dialing, and which ones don't do it, which ones have been proved to do it and proved not to do it. Because it's just because it says they don't do it in the manual doesn't actually necessarily mean they don't do it. Because the manual says Grandstream ones don't do pulse dialing anymore, but they actually do. It's just that Grandstream weren't aware they did it, because obviously Grandstream's devices are built in China, not by Grandstream. They're built by some generic Chinese factory, and Grandstream weren't aware of all the things that the device that was being built for them could actually do. To cut a long story short. So yeah, so that's your pulse to tone converters. Christopher uses PABX. It's a Panasonic TDA30, and quite a lot of the Panasonic ones do work. I have got a couple. I've not got them rigged up, but I have got a couple of Panasonic ones that do work. Dominic says, I'm not a fan of the rototone type converters. You have to convert each phone, as Wesley says, and it's quite intrusive if you want to keep your phones as original as possible. I agree, Dominic. I totally agree. Yeah. I still think the simplest way is to just get a pulse to tone capable PBX. I think that's the easiest way of doing it, as far as I can see. And then you can have phones all over the place and like ring from the lounge to the bedroom or the top of the garden or whatever, and you can have them all over the shop, a bit like we've done here. So yeah, the jury is still out on what is happening with the digital switchover, but I am seeing a lot of people up poles and things, leaving big coils of cable at the top of poles and stuff at the minute, and I'm wondering if that is some kind of fibre cable that they're putting in. The other thing about this is it's going to get very difficult to get copper paired cable on that, possibly eventually, unless you use Ethernet cable. Yeah, well, all this copper stuff that they're basically ripping out at the minute, you know, try and get hold of it. You know, when they take your copper line down, try and get hold of the cable that they're taking out, and because it will have some well, it will have some value in the copper, but it will also have some value as cable in times to come, because I think it will get difficult to get eventually. So yeah, get yourself some copper cable and stuff. Right, I think that is probably more or less about as far as we're going to go for today. Because yeah, like I say, I've got a bit of homework to do now. I'm going to have a look at this pulse to tone thing, and see where that takes us. Dominic says there were lots of roadworks while I was on my driving lessons around Belper, all open reach works, ripping out the POTS network. Says it's not the easiest place to drive, or Belper's not the easiest place to drive because most of the roads are vertical. Wesley said, I would imagine there will still be copper on the D side for a wee while. Yeah, I think there will. Dominic says it's half the trouble with keeping loop disconnect working. Half the people involved now don't really know what it is anymore. Yeah, they don't know what it is, but is that the fault of loop disconnect or the people that want to use it? No, it's the fault of the rubbish training that BT give their staff, or OpenReach give their staff. I mean, last time an OpenReach engineer came here, it was a woman actually, and she came to look at a problem with the phone line here, and I was saying, I've done this, I've done that, it's that pair of wires that's not working. How do you know it's that pair? Because I've put it on that pair. and what I was saying, I could see what I was saying to her, and I'm no engineer. I am in no way trained as a telephone engineer. All I have picked up is what I've learnt as I've gone along. I've never worked in the telephone industry, and I could see the stuff that I was saying to this trained, paid engineer was going completely over her head. You know, and she should be the expert, not me. But it was totally the other way around, and that's what I just find absolutely astounding about it. Bill's is here. It says, do I need a 3K resistor for a Bakelite 300? And which one do you recommend from eBay? Yes, you sent me a message about this, Bills, didn't you, the other day? Yeah, sorry, I haven't managed to put a reply to that, because you left it as a question in a comment, I think, and I've not managed to reply to it yet. You want a 3.3 kilo ohm resistor, and it doesn't really matter what sort you get. Just don't get a little pack of about 5 off eBay. That's not the way to do it, because a resistor, those little 3.3 kilo ohm resistors, should be no more than a couple of pennies each. I'm going to have a look now for some 3.3 3.3k resistor. I'm just getting a page up with some on now. Yeah, if you buy from Farnell UK, yeah, you probably want you don't want a massive one. So yeah, you want one's about 1 watt probably, or something like that. Wesley will probably tell you more. What resistor? What wattage resistor do you think is required for to go in a phone, Wesley? I think I've used 1 watt ones before, but I'm having trouble finding any on. I'm just looking at Farnell's website at the minute. But they've got some on their website on Farnell, and they're between 8p each if you want more than 10. If you want more than 100, they're 3.4 pence each. If you want more than 500, they're 2.07 pence each, and that is for a 250 milliwatt power rating. 3.3 kilo ohm resistor. Voltage rating is 250 volts. Product length 6.3 millimeters. Product diameter 2.3 millimeters. So yeah, that sounds about right. So I think it's possibly that, one of those from Farnell or somewhere, but I think you can probably get them cheaper than that, if I'm honest with you. I will put that up on the screen if I can do it. There you go. There it is on Farnell's website, and their website is uk.farnell.com, and that is one type you can have. Through hole 3.3 kilo ohm, MF 250 milliwatts. Axial leaded 250 volts resistor. There are other types as well. There's this type, which is cheaper. It's 3p, 3.3 pence to have one, up to 10 plus, sorry, 10 plus. The minimum you can buy is 10. So it's 3.3 pence each to buy 10. So to buy 10, you're talking 33p. They're rated up to 200 volts, which will be fine. The carbon film 330 milliwatts. I think that'll be enough. Yeah, let me have a look at the chat, see if Wesley's replied. Then £10 delivery, says Wesley, laughing. Possibly from Farnell, but I'm not saying get it from Farnell. I'm just saying that these are this is the sort of price you should be paying. You should not be paying £5 for a pack of 5 resistors from some shyster on eBay. But you don't need the resistor to make the phone work, Bills. That's the other thing to tell you. you don't actually need the resistor. What the resistor does, it relates to the bells. It kind of limits the amount of power your phone can use, to put it in layman's terms. So let's say you've got your old phone connected in the living room. Somebody in the kitchen can still hear another phone in the kitchen ringing, because yours is not zapping all the power. It's all to do with the REN, the ringer equivalence number. On old phones it tends to be a REN of about 4. They have a REN value of 4, an old phone. And basically GPO, now BT, say when you plug phones into your domestic system, into your extension sockets, the REN of all the phones plugged in together should add up to no more than 4. And most modern phones have a REN of 1 or even 0.5. But what this resistor does is it means less power gets to the bells, so it brings the REN number of the phone you fit the resistor to down from about 4 to about 1. So you can plug in 4 700 series phones perhaps instead of just 1. Well, you can plug them all in anyway without the resistor, but they just might not ring because there'll not be enough power coming down the line to ring them. So you can use them without the resistor, but some of the phones on your system won't ring. I think I'm right in saying that. If I'm not, somebody correct me. Gambo says, when I first started out, I picked up 200 3.3 kilo ohm resistors for about £1 plus postage. Still got some left, but getting low now. Yeah, that's about the right price, Gambo. That is actually. Yeah, about half a penny each. Yeah, you should be able to get them for something like that. I mean, Farnell are actually quite expensive, but you know, I can't tell you how cheap resistors should be. Christopher says, do you need a 3.3 kilo ohm resistor if you're on a PBX? That's a good question, Christopher. It won't hurt, let's put it that way. It won't hurt to have one in there, but no, I don't think you do, because if you're on a PBX it should be generating enough power. You see, each extension on a PBX generally is like a GPO master socket. When you have the extensions out of your PBX and dotted all around your house, you know, one in every room sort of thing, they're not actually normal extension sockets. What you have to do is wire up what is in effect a GPO master socket, so you have to buy a load of master sockets. So I don't think you do need the resistor, because if it's on a PBX, that PBX is generating the power to ring down individual wires to each of your extensions, whereas on a domestic system, the way the GPO or BT tell you to wire things is they tell you to go from your master socket, run an extension wire to your first extension, then go from that to your second extension, then go from that to your third extension. So it's all going through one wire basically. But with the PBX, it's going through a separate wire to each one, or a separate pair of wires to each one. So I think it should be generating enough power, sending enough power down each pair of wires to each individual extension to ring them without the resistor. I think. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's what logic tells me. Wesley, do you know any better? Because you might be the man to ask that question. Well, as you said, I've said before, the correct method for bell coils was to use high impedance bell coils. The resistor was used on high impedance trim phones, though. Yeah, yeah, you do it with with high impedance coils. If you've got a high impedance coil, but you might not have. It's hard to know what's done by who now, because you get a phone now. I've taken some 8746s apart with resistors in, that where the resistor looks like it was factory fitted, but I thought, as Wesley says, that when they changed the 746 into an 8746, they put a 2000 ohm bell coil in it instead of a 500 ohm bell coil, or two 2000 ohm bell coils instead of a 500 ohm bell coil. I thought that's what they did, but not sure that they did it on all of them. Bill says, how much should you pay for a line wire with 4 forks? I'm getting bitten on eBay. A line cord, you mean, from the phone? So on a 700 series phone, we're talking about one with the moulded thing that clips into the phone at one end, and 4 forks on the inner end of it, and then a coloured wire perhaps going to a GPO plug, aren't we? That you plug into the wall. Right. For a start, you shouldn't be using a coloured one. You'll see lots of coloured ones on eBay. To be correct, you don't use a coloured one. They should always be a light grey colour, and they should always be flat, to be correct, because they are the ones that BT used on when they changed 700 series phones into 8700, you know, like 8746 and 8722 and that. They always used grey ones. Then they were always flat. So the coloured ones that you can buy are technically wrong. Okay. Now, personally, I don't buy them because I make them up. But if I see any genuine old GPO ones, a big box full of them, and that's happened to me a couple of times in the past, I have bought them and I've ended up paying about £1 a cable for them, something like that. But I know there's people doing stupid money for them, but don't pay more than about £3 for one. They're really not worth it. If you're going to pay more than about £3 for one, you might as well make your own. Even if you go to B&Q, you can buy the crimping tool from B&Q for about a tenner, and a big pipe with about 10 or 20 plugs in, you know, and a bit of wire, and you can make your own, which I've done quite a lot. Dominic says, I tend to use the coloured one if I can't source the original line cord, and a BT52 terminal box. Yeah, well, you see, you shouldn't use a coloured one, Dominic, because the coloured ones didn't exist. There were no coloured wires that went into a GPO plug. They were all this light grey colour. Have I got one? Oh, I've got a bit of the cable. They were all this sort of colour, this light grey colour. I mean, this is not one, obviously. This is a thing off an American phone, but it's that exact same cable. It's that very pale grey colour. That is what a line cord with a plug on the end should be made of. Vodka says, I prefer the look of the coloured ones. Looks more like the older line cords. Well, yeah, if you prefer the look of the coloured ones, I mean, have them. But what I'm saying is they're not technically, historically correct. But they do work. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. But if you're wanting to have something that's historically correct, they're not. Chris says, I've got 2 GPO telephones on 1 extension on my PBX. Only extension 101 rings when outside line calls come in. So you've got 2 phones on the same extension, Christopher, but only one of them rings. Well, that might be down to you having 2 on the same extension, because normally on a PBX you don't have 2 phones on the same extension. If you have got 2 on, you probably do then need to put a resistor in the British way, because your phones are probably adding up possibly to about 8 Ren, which will mean there won't be enough power going down that one extension to ring a value of 8 Ren in total. It'll probably only ring a value of about 4. So that's probably why only one of them rings. The other one will be trying to ring, but there's just not enough amps going down the line to actually move the clapper in the bells. It says, but extensions 102 and 104 and 104 don't ring when exchange calls come to the PBX. Yeah, they might not, Christopher. PBXs have got like a little computer inside them when they're programmed, so you can program them so when a call comes in from the outside, it will only ring certain extensions. For instance, if you had a business and you had a PBX with 10 lines on it, let's say, or 10 extensions on it. One line coming into your business, a PBX box, 10 extensions. One of those extensions might be on the business owner's desk. One might be on the secretary's desk. One might be on the factory floor manager's desk. One might be in the canteen. When somebody rings into the company, you probably only want the one on the secretary's desk to ring, for her to take the outside call, and then she'll put it through to whoever necessary inside the factory. So you can program them generally to just ring whatever extensions you want them to ring. And if you've bought that PBX second hand, which I'm guessing you have, because they're pretty much all second hand now, it's probably still got some programming in it from the last people who had it. Now, the way you program them is you normally do it with a system phone. The one I've got here, you plug what they call a system phone into it, that's got lots of bells or whistles for talking to the PBX and and that's what you use to program it. But you don't need the system phone once it's programmed. So you bought the PBX, it's probably got some residual programming in it that says when I get an incoming call I only ring a certain extension. What you can do is normally, and you'll have to try and find a manual for your particular PBX for this, there is normally a factory reset that resets it to factory settings, which generally is to ring all of them. So you need to try and do a factory reset on it, I think, basically, and then hopefully when you get an incoming call, then all your extensions will ring. Vodka says, yes, but 746 telephones didn't have grey line cords. So if you fit a grey BT line cord to an original 746, it isn't right either, because only 8 746s were fitted with them. Not true. 746s were fitted with them. when the plug and socket thing came in, basically 8 746s were made out of 746s. Basically, so the 8746 that's got the grey line code actually started out its life as a 746, if that makes sense. If you want to be really super correct about it, the thing to do would be to get the old inline junction box thing that was on the end of the telephone cord originally. Use the original cord from your phone, the coloured cord from your phone, to that little box, and then get a little bit of line cord to go from the other side of the box to your plug on the wall, and that's as original as you can easily make it. I mean, you can, if you want, take the master socket off the wall and wire in your red and your white wires to the actual drop cable coming in from the outside of your house. You know, and still have the hardwired system. No reason it shouldn't work. I'd like to see Openreach's face when they come to try and install your VoIP service if you've got that system, though. Dominic says, I recently got an old Pentax 67 lens with a thorium oxide radioactive coating. Reminds me of old trim phone dials. Just as harmless unless you're next to it all the time. Yeah, and also, what's the half-life of thorium oxide? Because with its half-life, with halving again, it's probably basically not very radioactive at all now, which is why trim phones don't glow anymore. Dominic says, what you just said is my preferred option. Use the original line cord in a junction box where possible, then go from the junction box to the socket. Yeah, but then you do have a junction box sort of dangling around, which you have to screw to the wall or something then. But yeah, that is a way to do it. Yeah, right. Okie dokie. It's 8 o'clock, folks. I shall soon be turning back into a pumpkin. So I think we had better call it a day there for today. Thanks to everybody for taking part once again. Remember, we do have a website which is due an update, but it is still there. andyshed.corepress.net. And if you like what you see here, why not support the channel by becoming a patron? We are on Patreon, patreon.com/AndyShed as well. And we do have the telephone forum, which I must admit I don't look at as often as I ought to, because I've just been so blooming busy. It's gpotelephones.proboards.com. But that is about it from us for this week, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us over the break, and thanks for all being back today. I know we originally said we weren't coming back till August. It was me getting my dates mixed up and that, so we came back on the 30th of July. But I didn't mean this week. I just didn't realise it was still July today when I was working it all out. We will be back around about the same time, same place next week for another episode of Andy's Shed Live, and I will do a little bit of homework and see what I can find out about pulsar tone converters and things. Farticus says 8746s were refurbished 746s made into 8746s. So if you have an unrefurbished 746, it will never have had a grey BT cord. And if BT fitted a grey cord to a 746, then it isn't a 746 anymore. Yes, I see what you're getting at. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if engineers did go out into the field and fit cords with plugs on to 746s. I don't know if that happened or not. It shouldn't have, but it possibly did. I don't know. And Christopher's saying about his phones that ring and don't ring. Yeah, I think you need to try and reset the PBX, Christopher. Try and do a hard reset on the PBX. Have a Google around, or if you've not got the manual for the PBX, and see if there's something. There might be a little hidden button that you have to push in with a pin or something, hold it pushed in for 10 minutes, or 10 seconds rather, like there are on some routers, to do a factory reset on it. And if you do that, you might find then it behaves totally differently. Bill says, I have my collection of phones in the bedroom, so I'm done for. And Wesley says, we all expect to see a prototype up and running for next week's show, Andy. Oh, the pulsar tone thing, I think he's on about. Yeah, depends how fast he can make PCBs, doesn't it? Depends how fast I can get around to ordering it all as well. But yeah, that is certainly an interesting one. Another thing that we're hoping to be doing in the coming weeks is platted cords for Bakelite telephones. They're very expensive to buy. It might be possible to make your own. I've mentioned this before, but we are looking into that at the minute, because I have got a couple more Bakelite phones on their way. Might be here for next week. So, from me for now, has it started? Thought next week. Hi all, has it started? Oh, hi, yes, it's Miguel. It says, hi all, has it started? I thought it was next week. Yeah, so did everybody. It was me getting my dates mixed up. But yes, it started, and actually I'm afraid it's about to finish. But we will be back same time, same place next week. So sorry, Miguel, so you've kind of missed it, mate. But you will be able to watch it back later. You will be able to catch it again after the event. So from me for now, have a fantastic week ahead, everybody, and we will see you very, very soon. Bye for now.